Despite all the dangers that hyperspace travel poses to an individual, it is truly the safest way to traverse the entire Star Wars galaxy. The way it works is by literally entering another realm, one in which it is moving faster than light speed. You are safe from many dangers of subspace here. Typically, moving through subspace leaves you open to issues like bounty hunters, pirates, and even cosmic storms, or whatever other predators may lurk out there in the dark. Oh yes, my friends, living creatures hunting for food do not just exist on the surface of worlds, but the seemingly dead vacuum of space boasts its own terrifying ecosystem. And in every ecosystem, there must be one who sits at the top of a food chain. So what is the galaxy's greatest predator? A creature so large and so powerful that it can't even be perceived at all at once before it consumes its prey. A being known as the Summa Verminoth. Never has there been such a monster so great, yet so misunderstood. This is because by its sheer size alone, it borders on the very edge of possibility and straddles on the line of myth. Our creaking archives welcomes you again today, my curious friend, and the horror continues in another dark holocron. So let us begin and learn more about the Summa Verminoth. Typically, the Summa Verminoth is thought of nothing more than a story that spacefarers share with one another, just like angels and other strange beings out there in deep space. When you hear about them at first, it almost seems unbelievable. You're traveling along, traversing the Akades maelstrom, and just trying to dodge the storm well enough in order to reach the world of Kessel, when suddenly, out of the sight of your viewport, lightning flashes, but the light is inexplicitly muted by a shadow several miles in length. Then suddenly the ship rocks and the power experiences a malfunction. By the time you finally get the lights back on, you see an eye eclipses the entirety of your viewport. And then, the darkness of a mouth with hundreds of rows of teeth appears. But there was nothing mythical about the Summa Verminoth. They were very real. They weren't just seen very often outside of the space storms or a nebula, which is where they made their homes in order to sleep or dwell for centuries at a time. They were gargantuan, jellyfish-like creatures that mostly inhabited the maelstrom, the swirling vortex of storms and carbon bergs which surround the planet of Kessel. This maelstrom was created by drawing in gases and particles of space towards the MAW, which was a gravity well that sat in the very epicenter. Only an environment of this size could hide the Summa Verminoth completely, who would then use the MAW to ambush their prey. They grew to an average size of 7,400 meters in length, which is equivalent to about 4.6 miles. For reference, an Imperial Star Destroyer measures at 1,600 meters, making the length of the average Summa Verminoth well over 4.5 Star Destroyers lined up end to end. They had giant heads to serve as the central part of their body, sporting a multiplicity of eyes. In the very front of the gaping mouth was full of teeth, which would be able to easily swallow a dreadnought ship whole. But of course, the main feature of the Summa Verminoth were their many tentacles used to ensnare their prey. But these were not just for show as they are for many other cosmic entities. The Summa Verminoth has electrified stingers and tentacles, those that carry enough voltage to completely short out a ship's systems or disable an extremely large prey item. The bone-chilling part about them though is they weren't just large, they were also intelligent. The specific one that we met in Solo: A Star Wars Story was sentient. It had arrived at the MAW many eons ago, having been called there by something enchanting, something that the MAW put the creature in a trance-like state, and it fell into a dream of longing for 1,000 years, only to be awoken by none other than the Millennium Falcon while making a run to Kessel. Now aware of itself again, and very hungry, the Summa Verminoth attempted to eat the Falcon, believing it to be a prey item. Luckily though, because of some risky flying from Han Solo, the Summa Verminoth was caught up in the gravity well at the center of the MAW, and due to its massive bulk, it was unable to escape from the intense gravity, and its flesh was torn right off its skull before the entire thing was pulled into a black hole. What's interesting though, is this hideously gigantic monster was not the only type of Summa Verminoth that we know of. Over the border of the unknown regions, Lord Vader would encounter a different species, or subspecies if you will. We first see this creature in Darth Vader 2029 and 10 when tracking down Sidious and finding the way to Exegol. Lord Vader would have to pass through an opening in the Great Hyperspace Barrier, This opening was a nebula known as the Red Honeycomb Zone, and lying within it was a cannibalistic subspecies of the Summa verminoth. This species had a spiked head with a single giant eye in the center rather than sporting multiple eyes. It still had many tentacles, but had a downward-facing mouth with teeth that opened like doors to protrude outwards. This one didn't seem to have the electric stingers that the others did, as it ensnared its prey in a much different form. This subspecies was telepathic, and if it fails to crush your body, it would crush your mind. Its power was so great that it managed to torment even the mind of Lord Vader, showing him a vision of his death, and tormenting him with memories of Anakin Skywalker. Vader had managed to slip by its attacks and made it into the Red Honeycomb Nebula, but as soon as the Sith did, he was flown right into the creature's lair. It then attacked his mind, and showed him his duel with Obi-Wan. At first, Vader resisted this attack, stating that he had well moved beyond such things. But his triumph was interrupted. Something that Vader had not moved past was revealed. He saw himself with Luke approaching him on Cloud City. As Luke ascended the stairs, his memory flashed to when Obi-Wan had the high ground and Anakin stared up at him. When Vader watched himself slice off Luke's hand, his memory flashed to when he was mutilated by Obi-Wan and then left to die. But suddenly, in Obi-Wan's place, Luke stood over him on Mustafar. And then Vader found himself lying at Luke's mercy on Bespin, now missing the hand that he had taken from Luke. He tried to reason with his son, only to be slain by Luke's lightsaber. Afterwards, Sidious took Luke to become his new apprentice, leaving Vader's dead body behind on Bespin. This was the kind of psychic attack that the creature was capable of. It showed you whatever death was the worst case possible, shattering your mind before it wrapped you in its tentacles and consumed you forever. Darth Vader only barely made it out of this alive, arriving on Exegol with most of his mind intact. But Vader proved that his rage was stronger than the creature's telepathy. Reaching out with the dark side, Vader would make the Summa verminoth submit to his will, and once he did, he climbed on top of its head and rode it out to face his master Sidious. But that story aside, it's horrifying that a creature evolving to hunt its own kind decided to use its own species' weakness against it, the weakness of telepathy. The Summa verminoth in the MAW was drawn there and put under a spell of the mind, and this creature had grown to use the power of the mind to subdue and eat its own brethren and prey. But really quickly, I'd like to actually discuss the matter of the Summa verminoth in the MAW. It has never been explained exactly what drove the Summa verminoth creature to this location, but if you were to ask me, it's a bit suspicious that something trapped in the MAW would be so powerful as to entrench the mind of such a large and a powerful creature. Perhaps there's something else lying in wait in this place, something more powerful, more terrifying than even the ones of Mortis, a name that has not been whispered since eons of the long past. And perhaps this is a subject for a different video. But anyway, that was the cosmic horror of the Summa verminoth, a creature of the ancient days of the galaxy, when monsters of its size roam space freely as a normal occurrence. The deep space of Star Wars lore has its very own untapped ecosystem, a prospect that intrigues us greatly. And if you want to learn more about the beasts that roam freely in the vacuum of space, let us know in the comments below. But until next time, steer clear of nebula and space storms, my friends, because you just may encounter a creature too large for life. And if you find yourself staring into the giant eye of a Summa verminoth, may the Force be with you.